So these are all the hives that were nukes you saw here a couple of weeks ago. And just over a week ago, I had some friends of mine that wanted to do kind of a day's beekeeping experience. They're actually tree surgeons and they live really near me. They said, could they come out? And it was a perfect thing to do. So they all came out, 3 of them. I had enough suits and we all transferred all the nukes into hives. And if you look on top of each box, you'll see a feeder. So what we did is we brought feeders with us. We put the nukes into hives. They had 4 extra frames, and some of the frames were pre-built because they were from dead outs I had, but they were clean. And then we gave a feed as well. That was before the nectar flow started. So you can see the nectar flow is just starting now, and it's later in the day. It's 4:30 now, so we're kind of past the peak flow, but some of these colonies are going really well. This is the chestnut I told you about. Now let's just have a look. You can just see some of it is opening. Now this isn't a very good example, but as I said, every tree is different. I think there's a tree over there that's a little bit further advanced. Yeah, that one is a little bit further advanced. You can just see some fronds out there on that one. I'm going to fall down these, I can't really reach this, but if you just look, you can see some fronds just opening on that. And that's the start of the flow on that tree. And over in this valley over here, it's just completely surrounded by chestnut. So, and you see this is the bramble we're getting everywhere. It's all coming into flower. Looks like the leaf. This is the 5-leaf one. Everything is coming to flower now for the final summer flow. So I'm going to go down all of these colonies. There's still 2 at the end that will probably be really full. I'm going to go and transfer those into hives and give them a super, but they won't need a feed because I fed them when I left, because I didn't have enough hives with me at the time. That's what it was. And then also I'm going to take off all the feeders, put them above the super. And if they're in the super already, they're going to get 2 supers because the flow here can be massive. And some of these colonies look as though they're doing really well. And for a young colony, that one is doing pretty well. For example, the one next door is okay. That one's good. Some better ones down there as well. So let's get this all done. So what I'm finding with these is, as I go down the row, I'm finding a few dead bees in the feeder between the bottom and the top, but nothing too major, so I'm quite relieved about that. And I'm also finding lovely colonies of bees that have filled out the bottom box, which is incredible. You know, these were all nukes a week ago. They've exploded into that box. They've taken the feed down, they've filled out the frames. You know, it's just lovely. And they're all very uniform. Look at that lovely white wax. You can see that, how they built out so well. This all, to me, says good colonies, good queens, you know. I've been dicking with this one a little bit, so they're getting a tiny bit nancy, but they're not, you know what I mean? They're not, you know, I've got no bees around my head, if you want to have a look, flying really. I'm just going to put this one back together. So now they've got the super in contact with them, and I imagine they'll be pretty much away and flying. Plenty of pollen coming in, look at that. Lovely stream of bees. This is what it's all about. Super on. I've had the super above, and they actually went through the feeder, which was there. And to get to this top section, they've cleaned out the feeder. So I leave a few bees that are there. They'll make their way back down. Typically, I haven't got enough bloody queen excluders with me. I've got 4 more over there, and I'm going to be 3 short, which is just sod's law. But I've got to come back near here tomorrow, so I'm not finished. I haven't even used the smoker for the last 4, 5, 6 colonies. Because I just don't need it. The weather's beautiful, there's a flow starting, and everything's pretty cool. So this is nice. I'm very, very happy with this. The boxes look nice as well. They were the ones we started to repaint. These have all had a lick of paint on the boxes. They look really good. Just doing the last of my spring nuke transfers. This colony here has got a nice queen in from Tenuta, so I'm going to use this larvae to graft into here, which I've just done. So there now I've got 2 larvae in those cells. We'll see what the bees do. This is a completely classic queenless colony. They're not laying workers yet, but I don't think they're far off. There's enough bees to make it work, and what I'll do is if I find they make a cell, I'll give them a frame of brood slightly later on to help them through. That now is all I can do with that. I would consider shaking that out already, but I've got no colony next to it in this apiary because I'm just restocking this one, and there's a chance, because when you give them a cell, as I showed you before, they'll often draw the cell up just because they can, and then they think it's their queen and they accept her, but then you get the problem with supersede later on. But all I'm hoping is that they'll become established for the end of the year, because really now the flow is on and we've got not much time left. All these colonies here, they're all just about okay. I might get some honey from this apiary. The flow isn't very strong here by the look of it. I don't know why, but we shall see. There's honey coming and going, but they're not fantastic, but they're all alive and they're all growing. That's what's important. So another issue in the apiary. I had 2 nukes on this one spot. One of them, the one on the right, was a normal nuke with a good queen. She's now in that box and they've got plenty of room. The one on the left was in that other nuke box, and I was going to transfer that also into a hive when I found it was a drone laying queen. So the reason why I haven't tried to save the colony is because of this. See, she's quite advanced in her drone laying. And when you see this, that to me spells problems. What I should, if I really wanted to save that colony, and there was a fair number of bees there, what I could have done was yanked all those drone frames out and then got some frames of brood from other colonies, put them in, and then gave them a cell, or hope they make their own cell with the larvae I give them that's in some of those frames. But the problem is, we're getting on in the year now. We're now near towards the mid-end of June, 22nd of June today. And the flow is about on, and all my colonies here aren't that big anyway. So why take good resources from one colony only to weaken it a bit, and then there's a chance now this colony will give me some honey. Whether it's laying workers or whether it's a drone laying queen, the colony is pretty difficult to reverse. The best way to reverse a laying workers is to remove as much brood as you can that's drone laying, and then what you can do is you can add a frame of emerging bees and brood each week, and by about the 3rd week it's pretty likely you'd have switched off all the laying workers and they will then try and make a cell from that. Or you just add some brood and then add a cell, or put in a running virgin, but try and remove that drone brood. That's the key to it. Now there's a big debate on the best way to reverse it. Some say, I'll take the colony 20 meters away and shake it out. Well, you could try that. I don't think that works really well. In this case, I've just decided to shake it out because there was 2 colonies next to each other, and that drone brood is pretty advanced, so I can't be bothered to try and reverse it. All my other colonies are finally getting up to strength in here. They're working quite well now, as you can probably see, and I want to make sure that they continue. So long story short, we've shaken this one out. I'll get the frames back, and those bees will join that one. And if this was, for example, a laying worker colony, these bees will automatically switch off their laying worker capabilities by walking through that door. They've literally got to beg their way in. And as they go in, they will hit that brood pheromone and they will stop doing their job of laying infertile cells, in other words, drone cells. So, a bit of interest, something different. It's not all perfect colonies. Shit happens kind of thing. I've left these out actually because I've left these frames to be cleaned out, and I'm using them in other colonies after. But I just don't see a point in taking soaking wet, sodden honey frames home when they could be cleaned out here, and in a day or so there'd be nothing left of them. In other words, they'll be spotless and they won't create more robbing issues later on. But there you go, something different. Lots of chestnut pollen coming in now. You can see there. Look at those bees. They're like a yellowy kind of green. That's chestnut. The bees, in another couple of weeks, when the chestnut really gets going, they come back almost green in colour, greeny yellow, and that's the pollen and all the nectar they bring back. So anyway, something different. It's just something to note, but it works for me. We're getting that point of the year now already where we're thinking, can I rescue a drone layer? Can I rescue the colony, when really we're on the point where I'm just better off boosting this and splitting this hard in the summer and having more bees to do with.
So I just wanted to add and show you these pictures. This is my barn owl box that I've shown you sometimes over the winter. This spring we've had a clutch of 4 barn owls that have just started to fledge. They are now outside the box and they are flying around doing little circuits, and the adults are still tending to them, but they are doing really great. I'm just really thrilled that we've been able to give these birds a nesting box, and they've brought up 4 beautiful young barn owls. But they'll be fledging now and disappearing off over the next few weeks. Give me a chance to get new cameras in the box this autumn, and I'll be hopefully live streaming that for next year. But anyway, just something to show you. Take care, guys. Speak to you again soon.